So the issues that they're dealing with, they're still learning how to be a leader.
Sure.
They're still learning
I don't think you ever
how
stop.
to read their financials.
Yeah.
No, but whenever you get to corporate level where you have like 50 million to 100 million in revenues, it's a different need that they have. And so I think more of that coaching is on site because you're not just coaching the CEO, but you're also
right. Then you got
you're facilitating team meetings.
It's an army. Yeah.
It's a different experience. So that you do have to be on site for a little bit more. For some of my stuff, there's a couple of clients that it would probably be beneficial for me to go sit in on a couple of meetings.
Yeah.
But they have to decide if they want to do that. One of them may, depends on kind of what happens with them. But so it really does work, in the target market that I'm working with.
So that had to have been a big transition from you buying like tons of raw materials.
Oh my God, that's
paying
so much money.
Crazy rent.
Yeah.
Labor.
My rent wasn't bad.
Labor was probably your biggest expense, right?
My labor at one point, my labor was like,
your payrolls are probably like 100,000 a pop, right?
More, probably 300,000 a month.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like every 2 weeks, like 150, something like that.
Yeah, actually, it was probably more than that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It was really high because I had 100 employees at one point.
So like,
when I left.
you're doing that.
And then food, I probably spent $60,000, $70,000.
And then all of a sudden you're just like in the digital world and you're paying for
like
a web host service.
Yeah, like $50 for this.
Some service fees and
stuff. But it goes up and down because when I had my job in the corporate world, my employees were making $100,000, right?
Yeah.
And then when I started Butterbeans, they were making $12 an hour.
Yeah.
So it was I went back to that, and then then I grew it to more of a small business, bankable level, because I did become bankable, which was nice. I totally bootstrapped Butterbeans. I never borrowed money. I got an investor.
Yeah.
But we did get to the point where we were bankable and we could borrow money if we needed. We had a good line of credit, so we had that worked really well.
Yeah. That transition is interesting to me because all I've ever done has been hardcore brick and mortar. Lots of rent, lots of raw materials to either produce and resell or just resell packaged, and lots of labor and all the plumbing issues and fire and all that stuff. And then I'm talking to these people that are just like all digital, and I'm like, that sounds fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's got its own headaches, but
well, it's funny because this one platform I use right now, it's $57 a month, and they just said, oh, we're changing our price for new people to $98 a month, and all this outrage.
Right, exactly. That's
like,
exactly what I was just going to say.
$98? This just, what do we get for that? What do we get for that? And it's like, well, all these like 8,000 things we just added over the past year, you get that. You get to keep using that you've been using for free all this time.
It's a really good transition into, I will say, the closing moments of this show. What it has taught me is a tremendous amount of gratitude, and I think this week is a good week to talk about that, being that it's Thanksgiving. But when you come from like that stressful, hardcore environment, and then you enter this environment where I see a lot of complaining, and I'm just like, are you kidding? Like, why don't you come spend like 2 weeks with me?
Right.
Just 2 weeks, 14-hour days, see what goes on, and then go back to your world.
Absolutely.
Not say I'm not trying to brag, but it's like it's very humbling when you're working in the trenches like this, because it can be pretty tough. And then you get into this totally sterile environment, and I'm the same way when these guys are like, oh, sorry, we gotta, and you see people like the messages, and they're just like, what the fuck, and I'm like, this is great, this is nothing, like,
I know.
It's so easy, and it makes me appreciate both more, and I'm trying to make a little turn into that digital direction, but I don't, like I asked this and I said it at the beginning, I really love all the things that I've built though, and I want to keep them. I like them, and they're close to the point where I don't have to be there all the time, which is really fantastic.
Right.
It's, I think there's always going to be some necessity for involvement, and there's also just like the really great payoff of when you enter the room and everybody, customers and staff and everybody knows you, and they're like, your presence is welcome and invited. That's really nice, and I really enjoy that, and just being able to offer support and just kind of walk in and elevate the situation where maybe it was like, it was good, but now it just got better. I really like that, and I don't ever want to really stop doing that. I enjoy that. So I'm interested in making kind of that turn, and or at least folding it into my portfolio. But being so entrenched in brick and mortar just gives me so much gratitude for that, and I hope people get a sense of that, especially if you haven't done in brick and mortar and you've only been in digital, and you're like, oh, this sucks. Like, go spend a couple weeks, go intern, in brick and mortar, and just see what's going on, because I think the business environment would be different.
Right.
I think people would talk to each other differently, especially when everything you're doing is digital and you don't have to sit in front of somebody. Right. You don't have to sit in front of one of your suppliers or one of your vendors or even your customers. Right. Like, there's like a lot of accountability to be. That's why I asked you, like, how much of it is intimate and one-on-one, because I feel like the dynamics, just like this, like doing live radio versus a pre-record.
Right.
It's a much different dynamic. There's a lot more sincerity. I think, like, there's no edits, guys. All this wonderfulness, this was totally live. When you don't get to edit, when you really have to be so accountable and so honest and sincere and deliver on a different level than you do if, like, all you're doing is digital, especially if most of your communication is email. That's totally different than having to solve a problem.
Email is definitely different, but I will say that there is a lot of intimacy that you can get.
Sure, no, absolutely, and I've found ways to do that. I mean, I don't have a choice. In me, it's just inherent. I'm like, if I'm going to do this digitally, it's going to be as intimate as digital can be.
Right.
But I think I've seen little pieces of that missing from people that I've met that are just like hardcore digital, and it's like,
it's really worth getting a diversity of experiences.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that really is something that you want to consider when you're hiring people.
Yep.
You know, what kind of background did you have? What was your summer job? You know, that all of a sudden matters.
Yeah, big time. Even if it was just something you did like an intern, you know, how intimate was it? What is the contribution? Because if you did nothing,
you didn't learn anything.
Right.
You haven't
but it's just
that
like what you
impact your work ethic.
Yeah, but like what you were going back to what you were saying about like sitting around picking the beans and like labeling, like you didn't realize that until much later. But you now can probably sense that in somebody when you're interviewing. They're like, oh, you did this. Like, that's probably a contributor to something that's going to be really cool.
And there's some clients that I have that are very young. They're like 21.
That's And
I can see them. I'm like,
not to target directly. But
I just want to let you know, it's not going to be a question of whether or not you're successful. It's just how successful, because you're really good. Like, I'm just letting you know. I've seen a lot. And you've got it.
And that's the thing.
Run with it.
Yeah. And the thing that I wanted to ask you about, that kind of like almost like HR kind of environment, is something I never thought about previously, but I have to do that a lot now.
You're HR.
I didn't realize it.
Yes.
I was way into it before.
Gosh.
There was a lot of things I didn't realize, and then I was like, well, oh, I'm the guy. Okay. And I think I haven't made any like major mistakes, but it's definitely a point of focus right now. But that's a big deal for me, like trying to,
especially in New York,
because there's anybody off the street has some sort of talent, you know, and if they end up in front of you in your business, across your desk or whatever, pulling that out of them and helping them realize their own value, but you realizing it too, like where are they going to be best suited? Like maybe you're applying for this, but what you're saying is screaming this.
I've done that a million times. But I always would say to my employees, from the food service worker, dishwasher person, all the way up to my director level people.
Yeah.
I want to see your resume, and I want to see what you want it to look like 3 years from now.
Right.
Let's figure out how we're going to make
not living in the past. Yeah.
That you have right here at this company get you to where you're going.
So do you say that to them, or like at the beginning?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. I've never thought about that.
Let's rewrite that right now. And I don't care if it has anything to do with this company or not.
Right.
It doesn't matter. What matters is that your goals are just as important as mine, and we need to have a win-win situation here. And in order for me to keep you happy here, then you need to see me invest in you.
Yeah.
So what do you want? What kind of experience do you want? And how much money do you want to make? And it's crazy because people who are making like $12 or $13 are like, I want to make, $14. And I'm like, what's that going to get you?
First of all, you're like, that's easy. We can do that.
That's not going to help you.
Like, just stay in New York State. That'll happen in 6 months.
Exactly. Like, seriously. So let's talk about what you really want.
Yeah.
And that question is most people cannot answer it. Particularly in that conversation, it's like, all right, no problem. You're not sure today. I want your job now is to go think about it,
3 months
figure that out, and we're going to have another meeting. You let me know when
How much
you're ready.
do you do follow-up meetings? Like, how much is a big part of?
So this is what I say to my staff. I say, listen, I am here as your support and your mentor, but you are responsible for your career. So I know I'm busy. I get a lot of, I'm not going to text you or email you because I know you're busy, Belinda. I don't want to bother you. I'm like, bother me. That's my job. I'm never going to not be busy. Bother me.
Right.
So it's your job now to contact me when you're ready for that next conversation.
Okay.
And of course, if I see them, if I'm passing by, I'm like, oh, by the way, have you given any thought to when you want to reschedule that meeting? Oh, I'm going to get back to you. But I make it their job to get back to me because I try to make them understand that they own their career, not me.
Yeah.
But that I am here as a support and a mentor to help facilitate helping them get to where they want to go. And I have to say, unfortunately, most people do not make that follow-up meeting.
That's why I would be reluctant maybe to completely put it on them. But even just like you said, passing them and asking them and following up, I feel like a lot of people need the coercion. I too have not been like great about it, but it's something I've started to do more and more. And just sitting down for a few minutes sometimes is like huge. And just listening, just being like, what's up? What's going on? What's on your mind? What? Just saying, how can we be better?
Right.
There's just that one thing. And even if nothing happens, nothing changes, or if you're like, sorry, that's not going to happen, I've noticed a difference, a big difference in morale. And
absolutely, because they know you care.
Yeah. Just giving
and that makes
instead
a huge
of being
difference.
right, instead of like the way I came up in business, it was just like the edict came down from the top.
Exactly.
If you questioned, boy,
You're out.
It was not necessarily you're out, but it would be degrading, like publicly sometimes, and it just was not encouraged at all, which sucked. I mean, once I got up in the higher ranks in places, which happened often, I would get into management pretty quickly. Then it was a little different, but I think somebody said to me once, you're only as good as your dishwasher in terms of a restaurant. So like if your dishwasher sucks, that bacteria will find its way all the way through. If your dishwasher is amazing, that too can spread. And that had a big impact on me. And I spend a lot of time with dishwashers and trying to figure out what's going on in their head. Like, you might be the lowest thing here. And I think about what you were saying. Being in the restaurant industry, I don't expect anybody to stay. In fact, it's the opposite. I expect you to spend less than 2 years here.
Right.
And some of you, it'll be less than 6 months. So I always try to pitch it like you're gonna make some money, and for the most part, both whether you're kitchen or front of the house, you make good money. You're way above minimum wage for sure. It's livable. You're going to develop skill that's going to be transferable.
Right.
If you move to another city and you end up at another restaurant, or you want to step up to like the next level of restaurant, everything that happens here will help with that. And I try to pitch that projection to them as well, because I just don't expect them to stay. The great part is with that expectation, I've had a lot of retention. I was like, it was unexpected. Like people that have been here 4 years, since the beginning. I'm like, wow, that works. So we're going to wrap up. You got the closing statement. What do you want to leave? What impression do you want to leave on people?
I just want, entrepreneurs to understand that, don't try to do this 100% by yourself.
That's a good one. I say that a lot.
Make sure that you're committed to your business. If this is something that you really want to do, be really committed and find an accountability partner. So whether that is a friend, a parent, a family member from some other place, a pen pal in Europe, I don't know. This is where a coach does come in. That is definitely something that you want to do. If you have an accountability partner, especially if they're also somebody who's running a business and really understands what you're doing, even better. But somebody who you're not afraid to tell something to that you might not actually do. Something that you might fail, and they're not going to judge you, but they're going to say, well, you actually did do something. You made some progress. It's not all bad. Right. Let's figure out how
when you're wrestling with all these in your own head only, it can be really devastating.
Yes,
it can get ugly.
It can you can talk yourself into an imposter syndrome fast. So don't talk yourself out of a big, hairy, audacious goal. As Tom Collins would call it, and good to great, but really just be committed and do what you got to do to show up every day.
That's awesome. Where can people find information on you if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, possibly for services, or just a chat or whatever?
Yeah, you can find my group coaching directly at belindadi.com. That will take you to the peer-to-peer website. If you want to know more about me, I'm definitely on LinkedIn, or you can come to my website, BelindaDiGiambattista.com.
You going to spell that for us? I still am not going to try to pronounce it. BelindaDiGiambattista. Woo! Yeah, I practiced your name in the mirror, and it wasn't going well. And I was like, you know what? I just got to pass the baton on this one, like, because we didn't talk about it before. And I was like, I'm really going to blow this one. Okay. So, well, thank you. It was really awesome having you on, and thank you. This was our first real live, our rogue broadcast, not in the station. Hope it went well. Particularly in terms of audio and video. We're trying something different, but something we'll be doing more of in the past. I would love to have you at the station sometime down the road, though, and we can delve into some of these things. We could talk about the DOE, trying to crack that nut a little bit more. Well, everybody, I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you leave the show today with a sense of gratitude. Take that out. Let it spill over into other things in your life. It will only make things better. Positivity grows. Positivity and gratitude is a great avenue for that. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next week at the station. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. Peace. Peace.